The news begins anew on Studio B. In box number 1, Joran van der Sloot confesses. Police say he claims he didn't want to kill the woman, but that she invaded his personal space. Greta on why he may soon regret not getting prison time in the Holloway case in Aruba. Box number 2, Blago on trial. Oh, Blago. Why his attorneys say the former governor should not face any charges at all. Why? Well, because it violates his right to free speech, of course. And in box number 3, the video of the day. A vintage plane flips over and as it tries to land. An update on the pilot. That's ahead unless breaking news changes everything in Studio B. First from Fox at 3 o'clock, the oil company BP initially told us there was no evidence, none at all, of underwater plumes of crude in the Gulf of Mexico, despite the fact that 2 universities had said there was weeks earlier. Now on day 50 of this disaster, the feds finally admit there is proof, as we've been reporting here for 26 days. And we're told the size of these clouds of oil is nothing short of staggering. Let's get a live look. Bottom of the Gulf, BP reports it is now having much more success siphoning oil from the leaking wellhead. Much more success. What are we looking at now? Oil leaking into the Gulf of Mexico. How much? We don't know. How come? Because they won't tell us. The company says it collected nearly 15,000 barrels of oil yesterday alone, but it keeps leaking. No one is sure about how much oil has already leaked. I mean, they may very well be sure. They may know to the last fluid ounce, but they're certainly not telling us. The feds are publicly estimating up to 25,000 barrels a day may have already gushed into the Gulf, and now government scientists tell us that large amounts of that oil appear to be suspended under the surface of the water. I know you've been hearing that here for weeks. My point is the feds are finally admitting it. That means the oil could suck oxygen out of the Gulf, essentially suffocating marine life, creating dead zones. We'll talk to an expert in the field about those plumes shortly. Meanwhile, on NBC's Today Show this morning, President Obama used some strong words when pushed by Matt Lauer to do so when he wants to answer on the spill.
I don't sit around just talking to experts because this is a college seminar. We talk to these folks because they potentially have the best answers, so I know who's asked to kick.
But in places where the summer tourist season should be up and in full swing, daily images of the spill and its impact on beaches and wildlife are beginning to have a disastrous effect on the economy. Team Fox coverage on Studio B. Brian Wilson on the reports of a second spill in the Gulf, about 150 miles from the early one. First, Chris Gutierrez live at Grand Isle, Louisiana. Chris, each day we're told they're able to collect a little bit more oil, right?
Perhaps it's a silver lining, Shepard. We know that BP collected 15,000 barrels of oil and gas just yesterday. That's up roughly 4,000 barrels than the day before. And when BP gets another vessel out there over the spill site, they hope to collect as much as 25,000 barrels. Here's how the Coast Guard Admiral describes the progress that's being made so far. Listen.
I've said time and time again, nothing good happens when oil is on the water, and we're making no illusions that this is anything other than a catastrophe, and we're addressing it as such, and we'll continue to do that.
Right now, BP is working on another containment device. It's a larger one that's currently on top of the leaking wellhead right now, Shepard. They hope to collect even more oil and gas in the next few weeks when they get that new containment device on top of it.
It's almost funny to me that they say they hope to collect 25,000 barrels a day. But they promise but they say they can't collect all of it, yet the high end of the estimate is 25,000 barrels a day. It's like they need more mouths for all the stories. Tell us about the scene in Grand Isle.
Yeah, exactly. Take a look at Grand Isle here. You can see that the beach is technically it's open, but it's closed to folks who can't come down here right now. You see this orange barrier here. Grand Isle, of course, one of the hardest hit areas. The president has been down here several times. Governor Bobby Jindal has been down here several times. But take a look. I mean, you talk about rental properties out here. The summertime just began, and you would hope that these people would be making some money by renting these properties out. But when people come down here, Shepard, they simply have nothing to do. It's a loss of money for those who live out here.
Mighty sucky. Thanks very much, Chris Gutierrez. Now the reports of another oil spill in the Gulf off the coast of Louisiana. Take a look at this satellite photo from the environmental watchdog group skytruth.org. See that thing there? In the middle is the slick, which we're told is 10 miles long. Upper right, the much larger BP spill. The Ocean Saratoga rig has reportedly been leaking since at least April the 30th. But right now it's still unclear how much oil has escaped from that rig. Brian Wilson live in our Washington newsroom. Since April 30th.
Yeah, it's been there for a while, apparently. We got to tell you, though, Shep, there's a lot of questions, more questions about this than we're getting answers, and we've been trying to get the answers. Let's go back to that satellite photo, which shows a small streak away from the giant BP oil blob. The environmental group Sky Truth is pushing this story, and the Mobile Press Register has posted a story says that it's seen federal documents which suggest the Ocean Saratoga rig, some 12 miles off the Louisiana coast, has been leaking for a while now. The Skywatch folks also point to this picture, which purports to show a boat spraying dispersant near the rig. Now, I've been pushing federal officials to give us some piece of authoritative information about this for hours. At the moment, nothing. Thad Allen, the BP incident commander, says he knows nothing about it. There are some reports this rig is working to repair a well that was damaged back during Hurricane Ivan. We hope, Shep, I'm still pressing, we hope to get an answer from Interior shortly. Now, I've been working all day, Shepard, to bring this piece of tape to your show. This comes from NNS affiliate WKRG, taken along Gulf Shores, Alabama. The reporter watched the BP crews and found that they're really not doing very much, standing around, their hands in their pockets. They took a 2-hour lunch, working about 15 minutes out of each hour. Folks on the beach were not very impressed.
These guys are dressed, they're not in uniform or anything, they're just regular old, jeans, sagging and all that kind of stuff. Checking the women as they go by. I mean, it's pretty funny.
Shep, I'm not kidding, the reporter put a clock on them. They left for lunch at 10:56. They came back at 1 p.m.
Wow. And these are among the thousands of people that BP chief executive keeps promising are there to clean up everything and, quote, make it right. Right?
Shep, I will tell you this. Based on what I've seen today, the people who are there visiting the beach and the people who live along the Gulf Coast are doing a lot more work than the BP people who've been hired to clean up this mess.
It's just one unbelievable story from this company and this attempt, if you want to even call it that, in the aftermath. It's just unbelievable. You heard the president today. The president on the Today Show this morning said,
yes,
we're talking about that Hayward guy. He said, well, he wouldn't work for me. Well, he's in charge of the company that's in charge of cleaning this thing up for the people of the United States. I have some thoughts, but I'm not going to share them here. Thank you, Brian. Police in Peru say that the suspect in Natalie Holloway's disappearance cried and confessed to the murder of another woman, 21-year-old Stephanie Flores. A local newspaper in Lima, Peru, is reporting Joran van der Sloot told investigators that he snapped after the victim used his laptop without permission. The paper quoted van der Sloot as saying, "I did not want to do it. The girl intruded into my private life. She didn't have any right. I went to her and I hit her. She was scared. We argued and she tried to escape. I grabbed her by the neck and hit her." This happened 5 years to the precise day after the American teenager Natalie Holloway disappeared on a trip from Alabama to Aruba. Joran van der Sloot is still considered the main suspect in that case. And this afternoon on America's Newsroom, that would be this morning, I guess, a criminal defense attorney explained why prison in Aruba would have been much better than in Peru.
I've been in prisons in over 24 countries defending Americans, and Lurigancho is the worst prison I've ever been in. You don't get put in cells, you get put in rooms. The average room is about 25 by 15. They've got 35 prisoners to a room. There's no toilet. There's a hole in the floor. For the 600 prisoners in these dormitories, there's 12 showers, which work once a week for 15 minutes.
Greta's on the case of this one, and she's been working on this story from the very beginning. There's Natalie. She joins us live with brand new details on this case and how it connects the investigation into Holloway's disappearance. That's coming up just minutes from now. Studio B is back in 90 seconds.